What few people understand is that we do very little business with India, but they do a tremendous amount of business with us. In other words, they sell us massive amounts of goods, their biggest client, but we sell them very little. Until now, a totally one-sided relationship, and it has been for many decades. The reason is that India has charged us until now such high tariffs, the most of any country, that our businesses are unable to sell into India. It has been a totally one-sided disaster. Also, India buys most of its oil and military products from Russia, very little from the US. They have now offered to cut their tariffs to nothing, but it's getting late. They should have done so years ago. Just some simple facts for people to ponder.
A federal appeals court ruled Friday that President Donald Trump does not have the legal authority to impose sweeping tariffs on imports from nearly every country. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit said Trump cannot declare national emergencies under the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, to justify these tariffs. The 7-4 decision largely upholds a May ruling by a federal trade court in New York. However, the court allowed the tariffs to remain in place temporarily, giving Trump time to appeal to the Supreme Court. The ruling covers two sets of tariffs. First, the Liberation Day tariffs imposed in April include up to 50% on countries with trade deficits and a 10% baseline on most others. Second, the trafficking tariffs on Canada, China, and Mexico aim to address illegal drug and immigrant flows. The tariffs have raised $159 billion for the U.S. Treasury by July, more than double last year, and pressured countries like the EU and Japan into trade deals. But they have also shaken global markets, raised fears of higher prices, and slowed economic growth. Earlier, Trump warned that striking down the tariffs could trigger a severe economic crisis, saying it would be 1929 all over again, a Great Depression. President Trump called the court ruling incorrect and said he will fight back in the Supreme Court. He described the tariffs as his best tool to protect American workers and support U.S. companies. Trump warned that removing the tariffs would be a total disaster for the U.S. economy and could destroy the United States of America. The administration still has limited alternatives to impose tariffs under laws like the Trade Act of 1974 and Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962. But these options are slower, smaller in scope, and require formal investigations. The Supreme Court will now decide the final outcome, which could reshape presidential powers over trade in the U.S. economy.